All right, Skelly. We got some predictions. It's the time of year. Everybody wants to make predictions, what they think the housing market's going to do. Are you up for some predictions?
I hate predictions, but when you have a real estate radio show and people are making predictions and it's this time of year, this is what we got to do. Let's do it.
We got to react.
I'll throw some shade on them. Let's do it.
All right. We got 9 key takeaways from Zillow and Realtor.com's 2025 forecast. All right. It's coming into focus, they say. The housing market outlook for 2025 is coming into focus. Zillow and Realtor.com both predict improvements in inventory and slow yet steady price growth, but there's slight variations in projections on mortgage rates, buyer leverage, and home sales paint a more complex picture. Here we go. All right. Home prices will continue to rise, but slowly. Zillow predicts a 2.6% increase, and Realtor.com expects a 3.7% increase. Now, again, this is on a national level. I think it's going to be bigger.
Well, I kind of like how some of these predictions are a little bit more less bold than previous years.
Modest,
yes, I feel that some of these forecasters have been humbled by some of their aggressive forecasts they've had in the last couple of years and toned it back a little bit. There was some folks in the last couple of years were getting very aggressive with how much they thought mortgage rates were going to go down and how quickly that was going to happen.
And how little home price appreciation was going to go. I remember back at when we did this for last year, they were talking like 1-2%, and then everyone, I think you're right. They've been very bold in their predictions, and then they have to come back and change them 2 or 3 times throughout the course of the year.
I think in the world of clickbait articles that we live in, sometimes the bold predictions are more likely to get clicked on. But I like how they're kind of taking a more modest approach and saying, things are gonna, increase a little bit, I think, and I'm actually I might agree with some of these predictions. I hate to do it, but go against character here.
How about inventory? Inventory will improve, but challenges remain. Zillow forecasts that inventory will loosen further in 2025. They didn't give a percentage. Realtor.com predicts an 11.7% growth in inventory, lower than 2024's projected 15.2%. I think we're going to have more homes come on the market I think we're going to have more than 11% growth, because we did not have a lot of homes come on the market. 15% was projected for this year. I don't think we saw a 15% increase, at least here in Connecticut. And again, this is nationally, but I think with where the market is going, where the rate's starting to finally loosen up a little bit, I have a good feeling that 11% growth is actually going to be a little bit higher. And we need it here in Connecticut more than anybody.
I think, nationally, I think there are a lot of builders in a lot of states building as quickly as they can. And I think that will contribute to the national number. In Connecticut, I think some of the high growth rates that were projected in the past years for inventory was tied to the mortgage rate predictions.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of folks at the beginning of 2024. They were saying, rates will be in the low 5s at the end of 2024. And that'll cause a lot of people to list their house for sale. And that didn't really come to fruition because just rates didn't go down that much. And so, but like I was talking about in our first segment, rates have kind of stabilized. It's been over a year since we've seen, rates in the high 7s or in the 8s. So people are kind of used to the new normal. So I think even if rates don't go down dramatically, there are folks that do need to move, and they had a life event, they had a kid, they have a new job, they have family, the parents that need to move in with them, and they can only wait so long. So I'm gonna take the stance. I like this prediction. I'm not gonna be so bold as to say there'll be more than that in Connecticut. I think the same challenges will continue to persist as far as new listings.
On rates, we'll hit this one quickly before we have to catch a break here. Realtor.com predicts an average rate of 6.3% with a year-end figure of 6.2%. I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to say we're going to be under 6%. But I want to get your reaction. I don't want to have to cut you off here in a second. But I'm going to go, and I'm going to say 5.79 by the end of 2025. But what do I know? Because I'm not the guy they call the mortgage guru. So Skelly, I know I'm not going to hold you to it, but I may hold you to it. What do you think rates are going to do in 2025?
So I actually like this prediction from Realtor.com. I think it's a reasonable prediction, but I want to point out a couple things. One is they're saying 6.3 average rate, but if you look at the headline of this nowbam.com article. It says mortgage rates will be a roller coaster. And before they go on to state the prediction, they do say that Zillow expects significant fluctuation in mortgage rates throughout 2005, creating opportunities for refinancing during the dips. So it's a good reminder to folks that rates do change every day, and the rates are not set by the Fed. So regardless of what the Federal Reserve's doing, we're going to see mortgage rates going up and down every day. And there, we saw some dips in 2024. I mean, it did get under 6% very briefly. I mean, it lasted for like maybe a week. And it's very difficult to time the market. So if you're fortunate enough to happen to get under contract for a property, you need to be under contract typically to lock the rate and have a property address. You happen to be doing it one of the dips, I would say seize that opportunity. A bird in the hand is better than two in the bush, as they say. But I like the 6.3 average. I mean, we're at Friday Mortgage News Daily said we're at 6.84. So they're saying it'll go down a little bit. That seems like a reasonable prediction, but we certainly could see at some point it could go up to, 7.5. It could happen.
Yep.
Could hit 5.5 at some point during the year. But I like that average 6.3 and the refinance during the dips. Those are good reminders. So if you hear that there was a drop in rates, take advantage of those opportunities. Another interesting thing they point out here in this article is the share of mortgages. People with mortgages below 6% is expected to fall to 75% in 2025, down from 84% in 2024 and 89% in 2023. So what they're talking about there is the so-called lock-in effect.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the reasons we haven't seen a lot of homes for sale in the last couple of years is, folks not wanting to sell a home that has a mortgage rate under 6%. And so, there are people that bought houses in 2022 that have a mortgage rate over 6% that will sell this year. A lot of folks, it seems a little counterintuitive. Why would somebody buy a house and sell it 2 or 3 years later? But it happens all the time.
I just gave you the data. I mean, our median sales price, you can make, just in a year, you made $37,000 in equity.
Yeah. I had one guy I did a mortgage for. He actually moved like 3 times in 1 year. He wasn't expecting it. I think sometimes people unexpectedly, sadly, get divorced. They have children, and all of a sudden they don't have enough bedrooms. Unexpected kids are on the way all of a sudden, and job changes.
Yep.
People say like, "Oh, I'm going to be in Connecticut for the next 10 years." Next thing you know, they got a great job offer. They cannot turn it down, and they got to move to Maryland or Texas or wherever they got to go. And so, the percentage of people that have a rate under 6% is going down, and that will free up some houses. It kind of takes away. So 25% of all people are expected to have a rate over 6%, and those folks will not hesitate to sell because of their interest rate, and that's going to help the market.